Hi, everyone. I'm Megan Warren, and this is Me Reimagined, a space where we unlock the frozen parts of ourselves, the parts we hide from and hide from the world, so we can learn to believe we're enough. This is the 6th episode in an 8-episode series on forgiving yourself for letting not enoughness hide you, silence you, block you, and punish you. Today's topic is one that touches me deeply: self-belief. That deep knowing that you can do it, that you are good, that things will work out for you, that you will be able to show up authentically and get your needs met. You'll notice that the timeline of the story today has shifted to the present. While my self-disbelief is rooted in childhood, in the past, its tendrils snake through my life in the present. Chapter 7: The Coaster of Self-Doubt. At 47, self-doubt is still a frequent refrain in her head. Her experience of not enoughness feels like a roller coaster sometimes. On the peak of the track, in the accelerating motion and the rush of the experience, it feels great. She can see the best in others. She can see the best in herself. She is able to give the most generous interpretation of people's behavior. Then something will happen that triggers her old pattern, something that stops the forward trajectory. The cart begins careening down the incline or doesn't hitch correctly and gets stuck, unable to ascend the curve. Sometimes she notices the event, that the cart's momentum has shifted. Sometimes she doesn't. Either way, it often feels out of her control, dependent on external forces. She's done enough work now that she's often able to sense the change in force. When she senses that, she can usually see more than one story outlined in her head. She is aware that multiple story possibilities point to different truths or realities. She's aware that these stories represent choices. One choice is more generous, choosing to believe the story where she sees the other person doing their best, where she sees that their reaction is about them, not her. She struggles to believe that story, however, because her feeling of not enoughness better matches another story. The story that doesn't see the best in any of the characters. This story portrays others as not caring, as insensitive, as self-focused, as prioritizing the wrong things. This story pictures her as unlovable, insignificant, and powerless. Whenever she does something, like last night, hosting an experiential conversation to show people what it's like to connect to self, she ends up minimizing any outcomes, critiquing her presentation and facilitation style, and ultimately feeling disconnected from herself. The next day finds her restless, searching for her creativity, reducing any impact she might have had to insignificance. The planning stage was the conversion of potential to kinetic energy, the emotional equivalent of that first downhill whoosh on the track. Designing the path to sense inside yourself, experience what happens in stressful situations when you lose the connection with yourself versus when you maintain it. Ending with breath work to induce state change felt purposeful, powerful. It was born of the intersection between her knowing, her training, and personal experience. And yet, when she delivered it, she was tired. Tired from family stress, tired from lack of sleep, tired from being engaged and active all day at a seminar. This made her unable to connect to the space where the program was born, the deep internal knowing. Thus, her experience of delivering it was shallow. Unable to validate it internally, she turned to others. She received that validation, but then discounted the confirmation. The wide smile and big hug from another coach facilitator who said skipping a competing event had been worth it turned in her head from enthusiastic truth to sympathetic niceness. The idea that this participant was falsely complimentary made her recoil, withdraw in shame. Her mind produced an image of a woman who tried, but didn't measure up, whose performance others were not happy with. And then she sought to confirm this bias. She looked at the ones who weren't there. They didn't show up because the other two events hadn't been transformative. Her fellow consultants weren't happy with what she planned and delivered. They just weren't speaking up. Unchecked, these doubts, like maggots, wormed their way in and ate away at her self-worth. They did their job well, which accounts for the hollow feeling she often has. They've cleaned her right out. When she maps them out and can clearly see where the stories begin and end, what the covers look like, she feels deep inside that she wants to choose the first story, the story that believes in her, the story that believes everyone is doing their best and that she matters, she has influence. But that is the story that feels more like a fairy tale. The feeling inside, that old pattern running its course, hijacking her stress response, monopolizing her thoughts, insisting that she is vulnerable and needs to protect herself at all costs from pain. Well, that feeling makes the first story seem hollow, as if it's only on paper. It's not real. The feeling tells her she can choose to believe it, but if she does so, she will be naive. She will stupidly open herself to tolerating being insignificant, to settling for not having her needs met, to open herself to hurt. The feeling asserts its grip over her reaction and commandeers her response. Her go-to response is to fight. She used to flee, so the fight isn't a bad sign. It's a sign of growth, of how important mastering enoughness is for her. But the fight often renders her self-advocacy null and void. She's either fighting herself or she's fighting others who are trying their best. Voicing her needs often still comes out as an attack when her not-enoughness gremlins get their claws in her, insisting that people she loves are not prioritizing time with her because she doesn't matter, because she's not lovable, because she's not enough to pull their desire, their attention. She dons her armor, transferring the blame. The monkey on her back jumps onto others, beating them about the head and neck. And the others, hearing their own not enough gremlins, either shut down and stonewall, or they apologize, internalizing her accusations as curves in their own roller coasters. They doubt their impact on her. They doubt that what they intended was good enough. They doubt their capacity to be enough for her. They doubt their own worth. And with that, she suddenly saw that all of the carts were on the same roller coaster. She could see where the tracks connected. She realized that how she navigated, the story that she chose to follow, impacted all the other carts on the track. How she steered determined which track she was on, whether she crashed into the other carts or pulled alongside them. It dictated her view. Was she looking around from the top of the coaster or fixated on the wheel grooves in the bottom of the track? The story influenced how she rode, with joy, shouting hellos and laughing with glee at every curve and upside-down twist, or with fear and shame, crouched in the car, white knuckles locked around the restraining bar. She finally understood that how you navigate matters as much as what you navigate. The end. So that's the sixth reason I need to forgive myself, for not believing in myself, for letting self-doubt infiltrate my self-concept, changing how I see myself. For letting that feeling dictate my reaction, my life choices. What I'd like you to do is find some space to reflect on 3 things today. First, when you experience self-doubt, what do you do? Do you challenge it? Do you acknowledge and share it, removing its power? Do you reframe it? Or do you stay silent, hide, and let your mind reinforce the neural network of not enoughness? To get more intentional about this reflection point, this week I'm launching a 7-day challenge in the Me Reimagined Facebook community group. Starting October 31st, Halloween, we're going to scare away that nagging gremlin voice that whispers, "You're not enough." Imagine a woman who constantly feels like she's not doing things right, whether it's at work, in her personal life, or as a parent. She questions if she should be different, better, or more. In this challenge, you'll learn how to change different, better, more messages into an all-out "I am enough" campaign. By the end of the week, instead of fixating on these doubts, you'll start to see how much you do contribute, how deeply you care, and how much effort you are giving. In the space of 7 days, you'll have built up enough strength to get the different, better, more rumination gremlin off your back. At the end of it, you'll feel lighter, more energized. You'll make choices from a place of self-trust because you can see the strong, capable person you truly are. Click the link in the show notes to join the Me Reimagined Facebook group to learn how transformative it is when you stop ruminating on self-doubt and begin recognizing your strengths and feeling at ease in your skin. The second thing I'd like you to reflect on is whether, like me, you are mistaking feeling for truth. Your emotions feel so truthful, don't they? My God, they are powerful. How could they be wrong? You can't possibly feel this hurt or scared and not be hurt or fearful. And if your emotions aren't the truth, then what is real? For me, it's not an either or. It's not that they are real and you are not enough, or that they are not real and you are enough. It's a both and. You don't have to invalidate the feelings to believe that you are enough. They are real. You do feel not enough. Their message just needs to be reinterpreted. The message they are sending isn't actually about your enoughness. That was, is, and always will be. It's unchanging. Your worth is not the same as your emotions. Your worth is constant. The message they are sending is about what you fear, what you hope, what is important to you. These messages shouldn't be ignored, but you must stop internalizing them. If you feel fear and you internalize the not enough message, you will begin to believe that you aren't brave or you aren't good at whatever you feel fear about, whether that's weight or finances. If what you hope doesn't arrive and you internalize the not enough narrative, you believe you are not enough to reach your dreams, to get your needs met. On the other hand, if you stop internalizing them, you are someone who feels fear and hope, like all humans, and those feelings alert you to what matters. Those feelings contribute information that you need to make the best decision for you. What if you didn't get that information and you didn't know what mattered to you? You need the information, but that information, that emotion, isn't your one single truth. The next time you find yourself stuck in one story, try to write the story down in the third person. When you see it as someone else going through it, it adds a distance that helps you see that other story possibilities exist. It helps you take off the victim lens. It helps you take off the lens that shows you are never adding up to enough. The other thing you can do is make up as many stories as possible about the situation. Going back to the situation I referred to in Chapter 7, I can see at least 3 or 4 stories I could write about how that experiential conversation on connecting to your inner self, well, how that went. If I can create that many stories, how do I know what is true? The only truth that matters is the one I choose to believe. If you're like me, that expression will actually annoy you. When I heard people say that, I felt as if they were telling me to choose to be naive, to choose to tolerate situations that made me unhappy. But it does come back to choice, not emotions. Your emotions are information. You can choose to incorporate them as information amongst other data, like, let's say, your personal vision for your life, your understanding of your higher self, your belief in the goodness of others, your knowledge of your patterns and triggers. Or you can choose to use your emotions as your sole arbiter of reality. If you choose choice and multiple data points rather than emotions, well, then you stop mistaking feeling for truth. And that enables you to start coming from love, which is not a feeling, it's an action, a choice. So the third thing I'd like you to reflect on is that how you do it is as important as what you do. I have really struggled to meet my needs. I am learning that now, ungracefully, but consciously, persistently. But advocating for myself with fight energy actually gets me farther away from my goal. And it not only minimizes my chances of getting my needs met, it actively harms other people. When I fight, I instill a sense of not enoughness in them, derailing their carts, creating divides that take time to bridge and heal. As you move through this process of healing your worthiness, ask yourself if how you are doing it is to avoid discomfort or to step into your higher self. Are you armoring up and fighting to avoid that feeling? Are you hiding from or pretending your way out of or delaying the discomfort? Or are you actively choosing to grow, to act with love when that's literally the last thing you feel like giving to someone who makes you feel not enough? Today, I feel so grateful that you are here with me, that you are practicing your how, falling on your face with me like Bridget Jones in heels, fishnets, and bunny ears, and that you are getting up again to love yourself. I feel grateful for my partner Max and my friend Idun, who let me practice my self-advocacy in my ungainly fight way, and who continue to love me. I've been thinking of my father a lot. He isn't my biological father, but he is my dad. He is the one who gave me a love that I didn't really understand until I was asked to pay it forward and found that it felt impossible at times. He gave me an open heart even during the times he met resistance or open aggression. He is what I use as my model for love as an action. He could not possibly have felt love toward me when I would shout at him, but he never gave any indication that he had anything other than an interest in me, unending patience, and a willingness to try and understand. I feel so grateful that I had that love and that model. As I close, if any of the episodes on self-sabotage or the ways that we speak to ourselves sparked something in you, share it with a friend. Spread the hope, spread the love, spread the enoughness. I hope you'll join the Me Reimagined Facebook community group. Start the Gremlin Challenge with us. We kick off in 2 days on Halloween. I'll put the link for the group and the challenge in the show notes. If you found this episode interesting or useful, subscribe to hear the other 6 episodes on self-forgiveness. You can find all episodes of Me Reimagined on Apple, Spotify, YouTube, or wherever you get your podcasts. And if you leave a voice note or a comment, I'll reply. With love, until next time.
You do not carry this all alone. No, you do not carry this all alone. This is way too big for you to carry this on your own. So you do not carry this all alone.